Welcome to the Wealth and Purpose Podcast, where we help families thrive by connecting their wealth and their purpose. I'm Jim Herrick, your host for today, and I've got the privilege to introduce and interview Brady Fineske, my partner, my brother-in-law, and your host going forward for the show. Today, we're introducing this new podcast and laying the groundwork for an amazing lineup of shows that are going to follow to help your family and those that you may know. So let's get right into it. For those of you that may not know, Brady Fineske is the president of TFO Wealth Partners, and he's a trusted advisor to high net worth families across the country. With over 2 decades of experience in managing wealth, Brady brings deep expertise in helping families navigate their complexities of affluence, legacy, and impact. Brady's professional recognition includes being named a Forbes Best in State Wealth Advisor multiple years, being featured in the Barron's Top 1200 Advisor list multiple years, recipient of the Toledo 20 Under 40 Leadership Award, as well as being honored for outstanding philanthropic leadership by the Northwest Ohio Community Foundation. He is grounded in a belief that true wealth goes beyond the balance sheet. Brady created this podcast to explore how families can align their financial lives and their values, their true mission, and their purpose. Brady's approach is personal and professional, shaped by his own experience as a business owner, father, philanthropist, and someone who has gone through significant highs and lows in his own family. He is driven by a mission to help families, and this podcast will serve as a platform to do just that. If you want to live intentionally, clearly, and confidently, and what matters most, this show is for you. Brady, welcome to your own show.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Super excited. Going to be a lot of fun, and nobody better than you to host our first show. You know, if this thing's successful, we're going to joke that, it all started with you. So thanks for doing this. Yeah.
No doubt. Well, let's start with a moment or an experience that really shaped your approach and your philosophy on wealth management. And this idea of connecting it with purpose. Is there a moment or event that you can kind of put your thumb on and say, that was it? That's what kind of led me off in this direction.
I think direct answer to your question is probably no. It's not one moment, but rather a series of events that took place over the last couple decades, in this business, right? I mean, I think about moments of despair when a client calls and someone just dies, when a client gets diagnosed with something and they call us in fear and in worry. Think about my own scenario where my son was diagnosed with brain cancer and later passed away. Those moments are moments where we start to question, what is our wealth really for? And I think in those moments, that really dictates a lot of how we view wealth. And I think about growing up, we didn't have any money. My mom was a hardworking single mom, taught in the inner city, and would work a second job in the summers so I could play baseball. And, a lot of those things are inside of us, and we don't realize how they really affect us later in life as we have wealth. But we learned, my brother and I, to take a lot of pride in our last name, take a lot of pride in what we did have, and we learned what we didn't want it to look like on the other side. And so thank God we were able to break the cycle that many aren't fortunate enough to do. And those stories become so important. I still tell my kids, I drove them the other day, we were on the way downtown and I drove them past the house I grew up in where I would go to school, and the stories that I would tell them about our first jobs, which for me was age 11. I remember my brother riding on his moped to his first job to clean a shop floor, things that we had to do that fortunately or unfortunately, our kids don't have to do. But those stories, I think, shape us and how we view wealth and the real purpose of it over time, for sure.
Yeah, and knowing you as well as I do, and for how many years I have, I think you were like most, right? There's some crazy statistics. And again, this is on one end of the spectrum, but 49% of Americans have less than $1,000 saved.
It's crazy.
53% have less than $10,000 in retirement. And 69% of families are reluctant to talk about money and finances with their kids.
Well, and because they don't talk about it, 75% of wealthy families go to the other end of the spectrum, right? You mentioned the folks that haven't been able to achieve anything in the vast majority of our country. But if you go to the other end of the spectrum, 75% say that their heirs are not ready to receive the wealth that they're going to inherit, right? It's a major problem. And the stats would say that, 24 years from now, $85 trillion is going to transfer down to the next generation. So if our kids aren't prepared, if they're not learning it in school, right? I had to take a home economics class. You probably don't even know what that was, right? I had to learn to sew and bake and cook and learn about money, which that doesn't exist anymore. Only 1 in 6 kids have to take a financial course to graduate. it's sad. And probably why a lot of those stats are, but more importantly is, gosh, if all this wealth is going to transfer down and families aren't talking about it or the purpose of that or what really created that, that's a problem, because we all want our kids to have better lives than we had. We want them to stay together and have a strong family. We all want that for our kids, but knowing that wealth can be a source of strife, a problem within a family, too much of it, right? There's things that we can do. And I think that's where, for us, we wanted to start this show to be able to share some of those experiences. And oftentimes we would meet clients that had achieved the American dream, right? They had all the wealth in the world and they felt very accomplished, but they didn't feel fulfilled. They maybe had one spouse that knew it all, but the other non-CFO spouse couldn't contribute to the conversations prior about their wealth or the business, but now they needed to. And so, I think creating systems, processes, ways that couples can get synced up is really important, but also how they can get synced up on how they want to live their life different going forward, in a more fulfilling way. Not only together, but with their family.
Yeah, and we talk about a couple of stats. I think the craziest one I've heard is from the Williams Group that suggests that 90% of family wealth is gone by the third generation.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And, whether it's 70%, 90%, the number moves, but some of that's due to lack of planning. Of course, just general estate planning and some tax laws that we need to do. But oftentimes that can be solved pretty easily, right? We can work on those things, but so many families fail to pass on the values that created the wealth. And therefore, there's a generation that made it, there's a generation that maintains it, but then there's a generation that blows it. And that's why it's gone by that third generation. And so a lot of important things we can do. And yet, oftentimes in our business, as you know, with this business, we have great communication. We strategically plan. We think about things all the time that matter because we have so many lives at stake. But yet in our families, we don't often communicate. We don't strategically plan. We don't think through those things that we have to do in order for it to turn out great. And so oftentimes it doesn't.
And so we get the benefit in the seat that we sit in to work with a lot of families. And we've got years and years of doing that. And I think that's the value of being able to share experiences, is so many people listening to this are going to benefit from the shared experiences that we've gone through with other wealthy families.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's the key, right? I mean, it's really why we wanted to start this podcast. If we can learn from others, right? Our founder, Cleves, would always say we all don't have to pay the same tuition. So if we can learn from others and we can share those experiences, not only of our clients, but of other things and families that we've studied that are successful, families that have not been successful, what we can learn from them and share. That's probably the thing we're most excited about, and really the reason we started this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you most excited about for this show?
Most excited about? I think we have an amazing group of people lined up for interviews. I think we got some great content lined up. But I hope that people are able to gain really valuable content in an efficient and effective way. I'm lucky if I get 25 minutes a day to listen to a podcast, right? So I don't want the first 20 minutes to be small talk, getting to know each other, tell me about yourself, that type of thing. I want to get the information. I want it to be efficiently and effectively delivered with great content. So that's what we're hoping to do. Now, in that same vein, we hope it's very educational, right? None of the information here is going to be probably new, but maybe delivered in a different way that they can take it and be motivated to go within their family, practically do something to improve how they feel about their wealth, their purpose, their worries. If they're worried about something within their family or what this wealth might do generationally, we want this podcast to be educational and motivational, but that they can walk away with some things and hopefully be able to share it with others that they know, other families. Because for us, our mission is to help more families.
So you mentioned a great lineup of guests. Are you able to tell us a little bit about who those are?
Heck yeah. I think really the client experiences, kind of the world around us as things come up, we really want that to drive the agenda for the show. But we do have some great guests lined up. New York Times bestselling author Bruce Feiler. He's here to share a little bit about two of his books. One I'm really excited about called The Secrets of Happy Families. But another one is Life is in the Transitions. Mastering change at any age, which so many of us go through, whether it's big changes like us losing our son, losing a job, retiring, selling your business, we must embrace and participate in change. And so I'm excited about his interviews that we're going to be doing here shortly. We have Chris Erblick, our partner and national estate planner, works with some of the most successful families around the country. Has lots of great stories to share. So I'm excited about that one. We have David York of a company called Corenology lined up. It's an amazing organization that helps families kind of effortlessly discover who they are, what they value, and what they believe. So those three are for sure at the top of the list I'm excited about.
So how about anything like real, like things real time happening now in the news that people can kind of take action on now?
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, we're going to let the client experience kind of drive the agenda, but certainly there's some laws that are going to change by the end of this year. So we want to have an industry leader out on the show to be able to talk about that so we can get ahead of that. I'm sure there's going to be some opportunities to talk about the markets, things like that, but there's going to be some great topics. Like one of my favorites is this idea of being squeezed in the middle, right? Where a certain age group is having to not only continue to raise their adult children, but also they're having to raise or support their parents. Maybe they're even squeezed, if that's vertical, they're squeezed horizontally as well, having to raise up a bunch of people at their company or, so just that idea of these successful entrepreneurs that are kind of squeezed in the middle, maybe at a different place in life than what they had envisioned at that time. But we're going to have executive coaches, family therapists, just various topics. I'm excited about sharing about developing a family mission. We had our first family meeting in February of this year as my oldest child gets ready to leave for college, and our youngest is only 8. And it was a great family meeting. I just want to be able to share that, how we did that, and how others have done it, both formally and informally. Just, hey, at the dinner table, what worked this week? What didn't work this week? How can we get better? So many times that level of communication that we do within our companies needs to transfer over to the dinner table, and yet we just don't do it. And so lots of great topics lined up, charitable topics, raising great kids, just industry leaders that I'm excited to have on and can't wait to get it started.
So I get to do this every day with you, but I'm excited to listen after hearing that. So of all those, is there one you're really excited about?
I think some of those are probably listening to this, so I have to be careful playing favorites. But I think the secrets of happy families is just going to be a great foundational episode that's going to allow us to kind of launch into the rest of the agenda for the show. So I'm excited about that one. It's coming up here soon.
Awesome. Well, one more question in closing here. What is the best way for people to subscribe, follow, listen?
Yeah, so the best way is going to be at our website, tfowealth.com. Right at the top, you can click podcast. That'll drop down and you'll see how to easily subscribe and follow on Apple, Spotify, and our YouTube channel. So if you prefer watching over listening, the YouTube channel is just YouTube and then / and it's at TFO Wealth. But we're also just available directly on any of those major apps, Apple, Spotify, all that. So
TFOwealth.com. Well, Brady, thank you as your partner. As your brother-in-law, I know how much you're going to put into this, your heart, your soul. I know this is your why. I'm excited about where this goes. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you like us, follow us, and we'll see you back here next time for the next episode.
Thanks again for doing this, Jim.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the Wealth and Purpose podcast. If today's conversation further helped you connect your wealth and purpose, please follow our show on your favorite podcasting platform. More importantly, help us help more families by sharing today's episode with someone you know.